Welcome to Dungeons and Downtime. Yeah, I can do that. Where we just kind of recap. We are covering not a specific time period, but our last time was at the end of session 7. So we've been about 10 and have traversed Highwall, befriended giants, and Leonin, have been briefly put in jail, have averted that chaos, and uncovered some of the darker plots that are happening here within the continent. How are y'all feeling?
We didn't avert shit.
Sure you did.
Like,
well, no, you didn't.
We reduced casualties, but it was still
we saved a centaur.
Yeah. But
well, I mean, no, because if the chief had died, like that, they're not going to end the conflict. Like the Leonin are not going to listen to us if their chief died. You know, like that would have been.
Everyone in that room would have been dead, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm saying like we didn't stop the vortex from happening.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, but that wasn't the conflict.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? We stopped a war from happening potentially between two
half
people.
of the half. You've got half of the side.
Technically, we're not. Yeah. I mean, we got to decide. I mean, if we want to, if we're even involved, if we want to even be involved in the Fae stuff, like if we want to take a side in it, because right now we were just kind of there while it happened.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is like seeing someone get pickpocketed, you know? It's like, hey, you cut that shit out.
That's kind of why Ravik mentioned to the centaur, like, hey, just remember in case you run into any of our expedition folks, and we kind of were on the right side of this, is in the future, however this shakes out, we don't want it to come back and bite the expedition members who eventually will venture out further from the coast, where the giants are. So,
yeah, we probably should have had
hopefully
like the prime directive or something like that before we kind of left on this journey.
Well, I mean, that's up for us to decide ultimately. Well, that's the thing that's interesting about this group is like last group was definitely more lawful good. And this group is much more neutral leaning. Mm-hmm. So I feel like it's always more up in the air what we'll do with those conflicts.
Well, because we had an obligation to help last time, like in our, like, literally, like we were the Adventurers Guild. That was like our thing, was to go on adventures to do good in Illyria. And now I feel like we don't have that, like, like overarching, like, creed for
push or drive,
so we're like kind of like making our own kind of like moral compass and like kind of like finding it together.
Yeah, if this was the ticket takers, there'd be like a crater and a statue of Kaimana. Like
at this point, yes.
And people would be terrified of Mar.
Or they'd love, I mean, you never know.
Yeah.
But no, I didn't say they wouldn't love you, because they would, but they would still be terrified of her.
Mar would have hooked up with a Leonin. That would have happened. She would have been super hot. It would have been great.
My curiosity is what is
Shuri would literally every 5 miles would be like, could this be my city? Like,
it's
a new undiscovered place.
And then he would meet the Fae and he'd be like, absolutely fucking not.
Yeah. My curiosity is what is Aster's beef with the Opal?
Mm-hmm.
Like what's the history there? Or is it just another source of power to drain? Maybe that's just it.
Well, whatever the Opal is like super powerful.
Yeah, it keeps being referenced as
a whole lot.
Oh, go ahead, Rob. Yeah.
I could see that going a whole lot of different ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Opal does. There's a series of like who at least the Leonin recognize as the powers on the continent, and the Opal, the Stone Giants specifically, the Dream Strider, the Heart and Dagger, are the three kind of the big ones.
Mm-hmm.
To zoom out a little bit, I'm like, what does he need all of this energy for? Like, what?
Like, I mean, the Pixie kind of hinted, like, I mean, because like the summer court and the winter court are like always kind of going at it, but if the winter court has been really struggling in the past decade since
everything is shut off.
Yeah, everything shutting off like inherently benefited the summer court, then they could be making like their big power play probably to break it back open. That's gonna be my guess, is to open the door back up between planes.
Yeah.
Because she said freedom, and I'm like,
Knowing our DM, I'm curious, what is the negative backlash for the material plane? Like, is there some type of magic buildup that once that door is open will burst out and cause devastation across the lands? Who knows?
the ley lines being messed up. Part of that is because of the Fae stuff.
Yeah, because
because we're cut off.
The ley lines, like, kind of think about like when there's a massive magnetic storm or whatever, and the magnetic field gets all out of whack, right? Like that's where we're at right now, and it can't restructure itself back to its normal setup because it doesn't have those typical avenues. So the ley lines are all jumbled and they cannot reorganize themselves.
It's kind of giving me like Full Metal Alchemist vibes to where like
I love that.
The energies on different sides of these two parallel worlds like feed into each other.
Yeah.
And so yeah, like maybe he's taking this this energy from this realm to help him out in the Feywild.
Yeah.
But by doing so, he might like inadvertently cause an adverse reaction further down the road for both sides of it, like throw it out of whack.
It's very Fey to do. So.
Yeah.
We have enemy number 1.
Taj.
For them.
Well, the Frost, the Prince of Frost.
Prince of Frost.
And I think the fairy confirmed that it was actually Aster, the Prince of Frost, and not like a representative or like a herald of Aster that we ran into.
Well, and you know, like Aster is not the name. Like Aster is the name of like the organization or whatever. No one knows the Prince of Frost's name.
So it'd be like Aster versus the Order of the Marigold.
Yeah, like that's the structure. Yeah, that there's like, and you can imagine that if Aster's will is working with the Gloaming or the Winter Court, then Marigold must be working with the Summer Court, and they seem to be active on the continent as well, at least according to the Pixie.
Oh, well. We maybe should have told the Leonin that before we... Well, the night is still... I mean, just having that information, you know, that here's the one side and the other side being the Marigold. At least you can name your...
I think for them, after this, probably Faye is Faye and Faye sucks. And we hate Faye.
Hey, now. Hey, wait a minute, guys. Hey,
not all bad.
Everybody shot on that. Look at my chicken. How can you say this?
Yeah.
No.
Speaking of chickens, and this is a terrible segue.
In
addition to uncovering some of the secrets of what's going on in High Wall, we also uncovered some secrets of each of our characters. How are we feeling about our campfire secrets?
Like,
go ahead.
2 players really specific like stuff, and you can like obviously like don't share any more than you like
deceive you or not
want to for like anything we don't know about anything else we don't know about the character. But like I'm really curious for Ace and Rob, who like we heard the most I think about like your characters and their like starting point, like backstory stuff. And I was just like curious what like in coming up with like a character for campaign 2, like what led you to this, like what was like, you know, how'd you come to this character and like what?
Do you want to go first, Rob?
Like I said, it's the character and the custom class were inspired by something that I played in AD&D decades ago, and a character that I started for a campaign. We had like 2 adventures and then it fell apart. But I was always intrigued by the character of having this wooden sword, like the weakest possible weapon doing the least amount of damage. And if that person could survive and thrive, what it says about their ability. Because AD&D was much more, lots of TPKs, lots of death. Getting a character to 5th level was like an act of God. And you didn't really invest fully in them until they got to that point, because what was the use? But I was always had this in the back of my mind of wanting to experiment with that, and then just coming up with a reason why someone might do this, and throwing the curveball in with Rodney. I was actually inspired by Minsk from Baldur's Gate 2, and then Baldur's Gate 3 came out, and he was there with Boo, and I'm like, well, there goes that bit. But we converted him to a baby Earth Elemental, and like I said, the book that inspired Kieran that he thinks is real is basically the literary equivalent of Ivanhoe, which is a book that's a classic that everybody read that got every detail possibly wrong. It got wrong. It's complete fabrication. So this
he watched a Wishbone episode.
Right. So this whole concept of honor and the solo warrior and stuff is complete hooey. But for him, it's deadly serious. And so, one of those. It's like, does he have? Was he dropped on his head once too many times as a kid? Is Rodney really a baby Earth Elemental, or is it just a rock that he has imaginary conversations with? I don't know.
I'll tell you the headcanon that I wanted to be true a little bit was that Andulicite, whose name is a mineral, was the Earth Elemental time traveling back to help.
Oh my God, the adult Rodney.
Oh my God.
That would have been fantastic.
The other day I said something to Jace, and I was like, Rob's rock. And Jace was like, what the fuck are you talking about?
No, you said
What
this group has a pet chicken and rock. And I
Yes, a pet chicken and rock.
What are you talking about? Because I forgot that he wasn't living. I was like, he's so real to me.
Rodney's
right
so
here.
real.
Yeah. I missed him.
With his googly eyes.
He has such presence and gravitas.
It does.
I forgot that he technically just counts as a fucking pet rock.
With googly eyes that Kieran put on him.
Yeah.
Because it's easier to tell the front that way without having,
There's something about that rock.
Yeah, it's but it kind of came and also with, okay, I'm not from this world. I'm not sure where that came into the mix, but I think it's when I was looking at races and I ran across the Vidalcan, which seemed interesting, but it hadn't really been mentioned as a race in this world. And so, okay, what if? And it kind of spiraled from there.
Cool.
To elaborate on Andulicite, I had a lot of ideas about what I wanted to do campaign 2. And I originally had a completely different character idea that Josh knows about. Totally polar opposite. And then Josh came up to me and he was like, I want to see if you'd be interested in playing the witch class from Worlds Beyond Number. And I was like, yes, this is like druid and bard and like everything I love in a class. So it was like a very perfect class. That was really neat. And then from there, I was like, maybe I should touch on some of the first ideas I had. And some of the earliest ideas I had for a character was the first idea popped up kind of during the Barbie movie, when me and Jace were watching the Barbie movie together. And a lot of like Margot Robbie stuff in it is very what I wanted to touch on. And then his other inspirations are Data from Star Trek, although I really didn't want to take any of the talking elements of that, just the idea of him wanting to interact with humans and people and be very like amongst them. And then Josh will know Persona 3. I guess I just have you say that. But too.
Josh will know.
You know too. I was trying to remember how far you got it. You got that far.
Yeah.
really fast.
I couldn't remember how far. But I think she is like, she almost may be the closest to like.
Oh yeah, that's a great
the
connection.
awkwardness, the like kind of leaving conversations suddenly and things like that. I think a lot of it's inspired by like her kind of like being in a team and being kind of out of place, but manages to fit in. So these three are the ingredients, Professor X style, that make, and then anxiety is like the chemical X.
And then a lot of open spaces where you don't know what your backstory is, which is, I think,
as you learned today, there's
a
a lot I don't know, which I think is very fun. I like to give Josh a lot of freedom in my backstories.
Same.
So.
Same.
Right. Any other questions for each other? We want to do a round of quick questions from Brandon.
Sure.
Okay. So he's got one for each of you. So, well, let's see. Ravik. Well, actually, this is for everybody kind of in general. Ravik met the ticket takers, but has the reputation of what happened 10 years ago affected you all in any way, and your characters in any way? Kieran, clearly not.
I touched on it, but like Lucky was there when you guys evacuated and told everyone to get out of the Church of Bellinor. Lucky was like, pan over. Lucky was in the corner.
What?
Yeah. So Lucky like saw all of that go down. So yeah, Lucky knows the ticket takers.
Yeah.
Lucky was the light breaker for that.
So
temple,
Lucky
right?
Lucky
was in training.
Yeah, because
Or
Lucky
trained.
would have super been murdered if they were a real light bringer. But
You were a potential slayer. Oh,
Slave.
kind of. So the way
It's a
that
Buffy
the
reference.
light bringers work is that they like awaken. And so Lucky awakened as like a young teen. And from there it's like, okay, you go to training, and then there's like two parts of training. So it's like the study part and then the like practical part where it's like you're actually like in a place like studying, and that was Anarvir for Lucky. So that's why he was back there. So he never got out of Lightbringer training because technically like you have to wait for a Lightbringer to die before Lucky would have ever.
And they all did it once.
And they all did it once. So Lucky was a Lightbringer for maybe 20 minutes, I guess. Like, I don't know.
And then their
it
god
was not
died.
long.
I don't know if Andalus. I don't.
We're talking
At
about
least the
connections.
legends
We're
of-
talking about tech connections to ticket takers.
Yeah, I feel like you probably.
So canonically, Abel made Lightbringers, right? Or like crafted Lightbringers.
Yeah,
but
Abel
we
is
don't
the
know-
creator of the Lightbringers. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, but we don't know if that means that he made me specifically.
Right, yeah.
Like we just kind of know Nuavian did at this point.
Yeah.
That much is confirmed.
Yeah, that was a Nuavian accent in the.
Was it Nuavian accent?
I know, and I almost cheered up because
I
it
noticed.
really did sound like Josh doing an Abel impression, and I was like, damn, I really miss
I
Abel.
hope so.
I really miss Abel. I was like tearing up in that moment. I was like, wow, I miss
Oh,
that character
that's
so much.
sweet.
And I'll say, Andulasite lives. Where is it, Josh? He lives outside of Ticket
outside of
Town.
like not far from the ticket town.
And that's all I'll say.
Oh, okay.
Do you live like in the forest, like in the woods?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because you were you had that one flashback with the panther.
The panther in the woods. Yeah. The deep woods.
Damn. Pan over. The
There's
werewolves are also there somewhere.
Also a bunch of
Panther from
spiders.
Lady Haverly's house.
Yeah.
Oh goodness.
That's a good connection. The panther
Me
that
just
you all
talking
set
to
free.
the spiders, like, please stop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Obviously, none for me.
Yeah, none for you. I don't know
Yeah.
in your corner of the Veltland, Bonnie, if it made it into the culture or not.
Well, I guess Mara's parents. I mean,
Well,
if they were
okay.
back to
Well, so
Scotland.
where Bonnie lives in the Veltland, like that would be like Arizona to Montana. Like,
Yeah, Veltland's huge.
Okay.
Veltland's huge. Yeah. Mhm.
It's like the whole side of the left side of the
The continent. Yeah.
continent.
So 10 years. Bonnie and Harold had their like last group of kids that they were raising at that time period. So
You have litters.
no, but like they have
Okay.
they have a lot of adopted children, right?
Yeah.
And so they were like, all right, these last like 2, this is gonna be it. Like we're tired. And the because Harold works for the courier service, he probably would have actually maybe caught more of it than Bonnie did. But also because this was like Bonnie's last group of 30-some kids, she had like 20 or so already out everywhere in the world at that point. So it's like the odds are decent that there was like one of Bonnie's kids in every town the ticket takers went to.
Well, I think we already established that you all went that when you went to the Absent Rapier in Hightower, that one of Bonnie's children was a dancer there. So.
There's that connection, and this might come up later in game, but Bonnie's paladin oath she took from a musical that was put on about the ticket takers at the Kaimana.
Oh my
Memorial.
god! Oh my god!
Oh my goodness.
That's cool.
Because Bonnie the basic white woman was like, I'm gonna base the next part of my life.
I'm holding space for.
I was about to say she watched Wicked once and was like, "This changed my life."
She went and saw Mamma Mia and we thought it was the best thing ever.
Oh, she's right for that though.
And it's a jukebox musical written by romance.
In my head, it's like Rogers the musical from the Avengers universe.
Oh yeah, so good.
But like the one that they put up in like Disney World, like that version. Yeah.
All right. So lightning other questions. I already told Brandon that you probably won't answer this one, but I thought it'd be interesting to see how you answer it, Lucky. What is the ring that you used to trick Ravik into thinking you were married, and what does it actually represent?
Maybe I was just wearing a ring. Sometimes people wear rings. Maybe the ring was invented for the bit in that moment, or maybe it has incredible meaning.
Yeah.
Who's to say?
We'll uncover more.
Ask if Robert cares.
I propose.
Robert doesn't care. Andalus.
Of course Robert cares.
You blatantly told me you didn't care. What are you talking about?
No. I said if the ring is important to you, if it symbolizes that, connection, then I wouldn't step in the way of that or try to break that up.
I'll say it. The ring has meaning, but Lucky did not lie to Robin.
Yeah, no,
but the ring does have meaning.
Yeah.
If the ring symbolizes your connection or marriage or what have you, and you're committed, Robin's
maybe it's my faith to God. Maybe that's my promise ring.
No,
that's my vow.
You all may not believe it, but Ravik does have a moral, system that he follows.
Oh, no,
I know. He's not just Hail Mary,
After he had that tearful conversation with me, of course I do.
Yeah.
Love Ravik.
All right. Andalus, while on a meta level you joke about having Fadar, would you say that Andalus was on some level subconsciously drawn to Taj because of his Fae energy, or was it purely just his connection to nature?
It's very funny. Like, me, the player, it was purely because Andalus just thinks people like that are cool. So, like thinks Kieran is very cool because there's certain things where if someone is like, and Jace, this may finally answer your question that you've asked me like a billion times. If someone is like striking out on their own and trying to figure out what they're doing or like make a new path or something like that, and Dualisite is very drawn to that kind of person. So someone who is different in the group, he's like, yes. So he, look, I'm kind of a dumbass. I thought something was up with him, but I really wasn't looking that deep. Jace wasn't there that week, and we didn't have coffee. So
I would have caught it immediately.
Jace didn't pry into my brain.
We all know.
I get all the pieces together, and then I present them to Jace and go, "What does this make? What is this puzzle?" And
Jace rolls high insight rolls.
Yeah, we are like
Not just in
the
game.
Hardy Boys together.
Yeah.
You know, we put it together.
It's
You
true.
need both Hardy Boys. One of them alone just sucks.
It's
just
true.
Just a guy.
But I'm Joe. You're Frank.
That's fine. That's fine. I'm fine with that. I'll be Frank. It's okay.
Joe's the dumbass. I'm the dumbass.
That's fine.
I was gonna say, what's the difference?
They're very different.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I like to think that it was just the art of storytelling that because I'm a very lucky person. Haha. I'm a very lucky person, so I think I do things coincidentally and then they seem to just fit into the storyline. Like me picking the house, Windsor, that being connected to Jace. I think things like that just kind of happen.
Yeah.
Like me failing my dice roll and then I'm revealed this session and it was kind of cool and led to this cool moment. I like to think that's why those things happen.
Yeah. It's also, there's an element of like, who's the most easily manipulated member of the group that Taj would latch onto to try to like get in with the group. I think like, unfortunately, Angeles is.
Yeah. One if he senses a fake connection, I feel like he might be like, oh, they're like a trickster, like hiding among the people.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
Ace's dice don't roll low or high, but they are completely at the mercy of the plot.
Yeah.
They roll exactly something. Yep. Exactly something.
You will roll poorly to further the plot better than anyone I know.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
I love a bad roll. If
bad
you need to learn anything in tabletop, it's to love a bad roll.
Yeah.
A bad roll is so fun.
Failure tells as many stories as success, which is I think is
oh my god,
beautiful.
if not more.
Yeah, if not more. Let's see. Ravik. So have you visited Azalor since the first time when they liberated it from the dream state, or did you decide never go back?
Ooh.
I don't. That is a good question. I haven't thought about it. I don't know if Ravik would have. You know what? Maybe he would have. I think maybe he would have for reasons that I don't want to say.
Well, I think it's safe to say that the first thing that we saw Ravik doing was doing research in a library in this campaign. And so that's a pretty good library to go try to do some research in. Yeah.
Library.
I think it would have been a little bit difficult for him with his background and connections, but I think he would have sucked, especially after a certain point where his magic had changed or been taken away from him. He probably would have, by any means necessary, gone on like a bender of trying to find whatever he could to supplement or fix it.
And then Kieran, is wood highly sought after material where you are from? Is it purely for weapons or does it have other uses that wouldn't be common in Illyria?
No, I think it really is. He it tied to his backstory. What I did as a triggering event was when he was young, there was an attack at the family compound from a rival house. And he was a kid and an assassin went to his room, killed the guards. And he's a kid, so he picks up his sword because he's a kid. He's been emulating the soldiers. And the guy basically goes, oh, what are you going to do? Stab me with it? And he does. And even though it's wood, it can have a very sharp point and basically kills the assassin. And so there's this, if I'm going to be the greatest swordsman, because the soldiers made a big deal. Oh my God, you killed him with a wooden sword. Oh, that's amazing. And so that's what propelled him to use wood. Yeah. Is that traumatic event from his childhood. Like I said, and his family is one where they're not raised in military. And part of the reason technically for this would explain why he was first level or second level when we started. Why he wasn't trained in the arts from a grown thing is his family we hire armies. Mm-hmm. We hire guards. So that's just a phase. So he learned poisons and calligraphy and these kind of things. But there's that romantic notion from the youth of going, back when I was free and could play before father turned his attention to me, I played it being a fighter, a warrior, and wanting that just pissed Dad off.
Back when you were studying economics, I was learning to blade.
So it's part rebellion against the family, while following still in the strictures of it.
I can't tell you how bad I want like a Rock Lee ditching the training weights moment where like he drops the wooden sword and like picks up one with the edge on it.
You know,
like it's never gonna happen. I know because I even built that character, but that moment has played out in my head like 3 or 4 times.
The man who fights with a wooden sword is a fool every fight but one.
There actually is a circumstance where he might pick up a different weapon, but it's very basically if he were like, I have sworn to protect you with my life, and he does not have his blade at all, but he would have to atone for it.
Yeah.
And that's part of his honor system. So it's one of those that's like the greater dishonor would be failing to keep my word to protect you with my life.
Yeah.
But things like, okay, I'll pick up a table leg and then afterwards I'll go carve it into a sword and use it as my weapon from here on out.
Yeah.
So things like that.
All right. Last one, Bonnie, pick a kid. Tell us where they're at right now.
Yeah.
Oh God,
Pick a child, any child.
I'm gonna grab the book.
Take a shot.
There's a book.
I like to think that the absent rapier child that Yorian took Jury there one time and Jury hated it, and then that dancer danced on Yorian and Jury left. He's like, I'm not having this.
All right.
What's this Harangon doing?
So Tom is the dancer at the
absent raper. Yeah. Tom, which Tom though? That was like Tom Prime, Tom Prime. Tom Prime. Yeah.
Prime.
Okay. There were 3 Toms.
Yeah, there's Tom Prime, Thomas Secundus, and Tommy.
Yep.
Actually, let's do Anthony Hawk, the Aarakocra.
Amazing.
No.
Amazing.
Geez, where's he at?
He's inventing skateboarding.
The half pipe.
He's in Hightower. He's a carpenter.
Nice.
Aww.
Good.
Maybe we'll see him.
Yeah. Thank you all so much. I love talking about the game that we play together, and thank you, Brandon, for the questions that you threw out.
Yes.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Thanks, Brandon.
Thanks, Brandon.
Thank you.
I can't wait to see where our story goes from here. Love you all.
Oh.
It's not going where we think.
And that's the best part.
Yeah.
That's always
It
the best
is.
game.
All right. But we'll see you all next time.
Yay.
Good night, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.